Now before we begin, you do have to remove the fuel pump from your vehicle. If you need a guide on how to do that, I'll include a link in the description box below showing the steps involved to remove the pump from your vehicle. But once you place it on the bench, you can do a quick test to see if it's working correctly. So let's get right to it. So right here we have a factory fuel pump assembly. In this case it happens to be a Subaru, but nevertheless you can do this test on any vehicle. So what we'll be doing is testing this float sensor. Now to do that you need to do an ohms reading, which you just grab a multimeter. You can pick up one of these for around $20 or so, and you place it on the ohm setting. This is the symbol right here. It's the omega symbol. That's the symbol you want to see on your multimeter. So if you see V for volts, you don't want that. This is really for continuity because you see this symbol here. Continuity just means 2 points make a connection. That's all that means. So you don't want to see that symbol. You want this guy right here. Now what we'll do, let me come in for a different shot. We'll be touching two of these harness connections on top of the fuel pump assembly, and we'll see a reading. And as we raise this bowl, the reading should increase, the reading should decrease on the multimeter. So let's see what we end up with. Now before we begin, let me just state I will come in for a different view in a moment, just so you guys can see which two terminals I'm touching here. Now how do I know which two terminals to touch? Is I just did a little research for this specific vehicle. You know, sometimes if you do a Google image search or you go to a website specific for your vehicle, there's always a guru out there that just knows everything about your car or truck. So just ask the question and someone out there will know the answers. Now regarding these alligator clips, this is because I can't do two things at once, and you'll see a reading here in a moment. So in other words, you can just take the leads from the multimeter and touch the two terminals and you'll be fine, but there's no way I can touch the two terminals, hold them there, and then increase this to see if we have a change in the reading. So the alligator clips just make this very, very easy. That's all I have these alligator clips for. They just run from here directly to the leads to the multimeter, okay? Just so you guys can see this. All right, there we go. That's all they are. They're just making the connection. So we have roughly 34 ohms, which is a good reading for this vehicle. Now as I increase or move this bowl up, this should decrease in the reading. And as you can see, it's decreasing. And the top should be around 4 ohms, something like that, 3 to 4 ohms. And there you go. So this is working perfectly fine. Now if you don't see these kind of readings, or you just don't get a reading at all, then that's a very good indication that the level sensor has to be replaced on the fuel pump assembly. Now let me pause the video for a moment. If everything works correctly, that's awesome, you're in good shape. However, if it doesn't work correctly and you do have to replace the fuel level sensor, it's a pretty easy process, and I'll show you the steps involved for this specific fuel pump. And then right here is the fuel level sensor. So this keeps track of how much fuel is in the fuel tank. So this would be full and this would be empty. So to remove it, there's a little claw right here where my index finger is. You just press it in and then push up the entire part here. So press it in, push up, and there you go. And then we're just going to remove this and place it to the side. Okay, so we'll place this to the side. Just need to route the wires where they were before. Reinstall the temperature sensor on the bottom, and then you have the fuel level sensor that just clips on the bottom. Okay, go ahead and reinstall this guy. This goes, let's see, this way. So I'm just going to clean up these wires just a little bit more off camera. I just want them to line up evenly. and then this will be ready to reinstall in the fuel tank. Before we reinstall the fuel pump assembly, take note that there is a gasket. It's a good idea to replace this gasket as well. We have the new Subaru part right here. Also take note of the indentations. You have 1, 2, a third one right down here, so just match it when you install the new gasket onto the material. So that way you need to install the upper plate, and the upper plate coincides with those 3 tabs on the gasket. Now when you're ready to tighten down these bolts, you'll do so in a crisscross pattern. Also note that they're not very tight, around 3 to 4 foot-pounds, so don't over tighten them. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and reconnect the battery, reinstall the fuse for the fuel pump, crank it up, and we'll be in good shape. So a moment of truth. Let's make sure our fuel level works, which it does. Okay, here goes nothing. So that's it, we're in good shape.